What's up, everyone? Here's got the boxing narrative. Like, comment, subscribe, all that type of stuff. So we got Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman this Saturday. Definitely an interesting fight for me. Uh, I like Keith Thurman in this fight, but I don't know if I want to pick him fully, and I'll get into that more later on. But Sebastian Fundora, in my opinion, he has gone better. All right, don't get me wrong. He has gone better per se. He has a much better jab. I would say his fight against Tim Tszyu, the rematch, definitely showed his what's the word? He looked good. He looked good. That's for sure. But this guy is still has extremely bad defense. Some of the worst defense in this division, and he's a duck. He's a duck and a quitter as well. So last year I think it was last year, yeah. Last year he dropped the WBO title because he didn't want to fight the mandatory Xander Zayas. Let's just see what he has to say right here.
What's your ultimate goal? Do you want to be undisputed, or what's your ultimate goal in the ring?
There was an idea of becoming undisputed one time, but as of right now, it's so much politics. Look with the WBO. I was already unified champion, but all these things that don't line up with us, you can't. It's a business as well. It's a business as well. So if you're not gonna work with me, I can't really work with you either. So
So he's complaining that WBO mandated him to fight a mandatory in Xander Zayas. What kind of why are you crying? Why is that something to be crying about? The only reason why you should be crying about that is if you didn't want to fight Xander Zayas, you know, like that's such a weird thing to be complaining about. Really, the sanctioning body made me fight a guy, a young undefeated fighter. Like, why does that matter? If you don't remember, this was a situation with Fundora. It was either fight Xander Zayas for the WBO mandatory, or fight Tim Tszyu in a rematch, but get stripped slash vacant the WBO title. Now, obviously, we know Fundora picked the Tim Tszyu rematch, which look, it was a good win and good performance for Fundora, but can we really give Fundora full credit? Because Tim Tszyu is clearly not the same fighter. Clearly wasn't the same fighter after the background destruction. Like I was trying to find a word to describe it, but like, how can you even describe that? Tim Tszyu got beat the heck to the point where again he's not the same fighter no more. So how much credit can you really give Fundora for that win when he fought a fighter who clearly wasn't the same than when he fought him the first time around? And even the first time around, was that wasn't a fully prepared Tim Tszyu because Tim Tszyu took that fight in what 12 days, I think 12 days, and it was still a cut. So Fundora was able to beat Tim Tszyu, but it still wasn't Tim Tszyu at his best, and that's Fundora's best win. And then you have Fundora here making excuses of not taking Xander, like I just said, who would have been a really good win, especially right now. I mean, is does Fundora still want to fight Xander right now? He said he didn't want to fight Xander at the time. He didn't want to be mandated to fight Xander, be forced into fight Xander. Will you fight Xander now? Now that Xander has two titles, he has a claim to being the best in the division. Fundora can say he's the best. And he can believe that he's the best, but does the vast majority of the people think he is the best? I wouldn't be mad at if you put Fundora at two. Putting Fundora at two, sure. But I don't know if I can call Fundora the best. Because at least Xander Zayas, he's shown that he's probably the best 154 pounder right now. I can't put Virgil up there. Virgil Virgil does have good fighters that you beat, like Bochuk and I mean Madrimov is kind of overrated now, but I can't put Virgil any higher than 3 in my opinion. Boots Ennis just came in. To be honest, Boots Ennis shouldn't be ranked above like 5 because Boots beat Yusuf Malima or whatever, you know. But and Josh Kelly shouldn't even be in the top. Josh Kelly shouldn't even be a champion. But that's beside the point. Will Fundora really like what kind of fighter says they don't want to be undisputed? Like if you don't want to be undisputed, that tells me you don't want to fight the best fighters. So Fundora, does Fundora really want to fight the best fighters, or is Fundora just gonna keep on getting these favorable matchups? You know, Keith Thurman. Like I'm gonna mention why I think Keith Thurman does have a good shot, but like Keith Thurman, like let's say Keith Thurman were to win, even if Keith Thurman were to win this fight, it'll still be a cherry pick. All it means it was a cherry pick gone wrong. If Keith Thurman wins, it was a cherry pick gone wrong. But this is still a cherry pick because Keith Thurman is coming off of multiple layoffs. Since the Manny Pacquiao fight back in 2019, Keith Thurman has had 2 fights. So that's about what, 7 years? Coming into 7 years. He's had 2 fights. He has a history of injuries. Come on, like this is obviously a cherry pick. And again, just because let's say Keith Thurman were to win, doesn't make it not a cherry pick. It just means it was a cherry pick gone wrong, you know. So is Sebastian Fundora, is he gonna fight Xander, or is he just gonna take a fight with another Keith Thurman or not the same Tim Zoo stuff, something like that? Is he gonna do something like that? Now talk about Fundora as a quitter, because so you might hear that and you might be like, "How's Fundora a quitter? He's a guy that comes to fight and all that." And yeah, Fundora has a good style. He comes in there, he trades with you on the inside and all that. But let's look at here. Obviously, this is when he first lost against Brian Mendoza. Gets dropped. Boom. Ref starts to count. And look at Fundora. He gets up in his forearms. He's looking right at the ref. And he's blinking, breathing. Looks right in the ref, smiles at him. He's fully conscious of where it's happening. It's not like Fundora is knocked out cold, just laying on the floor, looking up on the stars. He's looking all around him. He has like a shocked look at his face. No, he's fully conscious of where he is. Again, I just showed you he was looking straight at the ref, smiled at him. He's up on his forearms, on his butt, but he's just sitting there, right there. He'll gladly take the count. He'll gladly just take the loss. And again, at this point of time, Fundora was up 6 rounds. 6 rounds, 0. Fundora was winning this fight easily. But then, can you show me what fighter has done this? What fighter has looked at the ref, smiles at them, and just goes, whatever. He just smiles and goes, whatever. Whatever. Fundora, he has heart. Alright, he comes in there. He gives him his all. He fights like he does have heart, but does he really have heart? Again, like let's compare this. Let's do a comparison with Nonito Donaire versus Montiel. Nonito Donaire rocked Montiel, dropped him bad with a left hook, left Montiel shaking, having a little seizure in the floor. And guess what? Montiel, even with the look, his eyes were wide open, looking like he didn't know where he was at. Montiel still used every nerve, every bone in his body to get up. And he was able to get up. Again, Fundora here is just smiling at the ref, going, whatever. Doesn't even try to get up. Come on. Is this a fighter with some heart? I don't know. Here's just some things I just want to point out for the Tim Zoo rematch. Tim Zoo, good shot to the body with the left hook coming off. Keith Thurman. One thing about Keith Thurman is he's very creative with his offense, Keith Thurman, he could definitely do some shit like this, starting off from the body and then come up with the hard shot upstairs. Again, Fundora has some of the worst defense in the division. Like, I'm just gonna go to a random spot in this fight. Let's go here. Keith Thurman, or let's see what happens here. Fundora walking straight in. Where's the head moving? No head, like really no head movement. You know, compare this to like a guy like Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin coming in, he's gonna have good head movement coming in. People who say he has no head movement just don't know shit about boxing. Fundora is it coming in with head movement really? Let's see, does Tim Tszyu throw anything here? Or is he just I mean at this point Tim Tszyu has like nothing left in this fight, so I don't know if he's gonna throw anything here. I mean, you see the right. Fundora, his head is just right there. Yeah, I mean, bad example, but trust me, like, I mean, Tim Tszyu at this point had nothing left in this fight. Um, so, let's see here. What does this replay show? I'm wasting my time here. This is another good shot right here. Again, Fundora misses that. Catches him with the left hook. Alright, I think that's a jab and boom. Hard right hand. It's 2 punches right there. Tim Tszyu was doing some good stuff there when he was being creative. Unfortunately, that punch was a slap. If he had landed that knuckle first on Fundora's head, it probably wouldn't have dropped him or even knocked him out, but it would have hurt him. But because it was just a slap, you know, Fundora pretty much just eats it. But Keith Thurman, he throws hard shots. Hard shots, knuckle first. He's not gonna slap with these punches, especially in his last fight against Brock Jarvis. Now I know Brock Jarvis is a bum. He already got knocked out by um the Amparo first round, one punch. I understand that, but even still, Keith Thurman was able to show his punch technique was looking really good. Knuckles first. I'm not saying Keith Thurman can knock out Fundora with just one shot like Brian Mendoza did, but if he can do this consistently, body going up to the head, knuckle first, bro, Tim Tszyu is doing some creative shit like this. Like imagine what Keith Thurman can do, who is more creative in his offense and doesn't need to fight coming forward like that. You know, Keith Thurman he fights his own way. He's not gonna fight like the bigger man. He's smarter than that. Um, he's not gonna try to walk Fundora down or anything like that. Keith Thurman's gonna have his shot. Now, am I officially picking Thurman to win? No, because Keith Thurman is what 36, 37. Like I said before, injury prone and all that. I just don't see it from him. Here's what I think is gonna happen. I think Keith Thurman's gonna outbox Fundora early on. I would say by the sixth round, it will be 4-2 for Keith Thurman. But after round 7, I think Fundora will take over the fight and win a competitive decision. But I think people will remember the late rounds more because that's just how boxing fans are. To remember how the fight ends more than the early rounds. So they'll probably forget about Keith Thurman outboxing Thurman, or they'll probably forget Thurman outboxing Fundora early on in the fight because I think Fundora will have like a strong rally towards the end of the fight. So yeah, I'm picking Fundora by decision, but Keith Thurman can have a good shot. Because I've been watching, as you can see, I've been watching a lot of Fundora fights, and man, Fundora has bad defense, man. This guy has really bad defense. Keith Thurman can land a good shot on Fundora, and he can rock him for sure. But man, come on. I can't look away from this. If you're a type of fighter, if you show me something like this, come on. If you show me something like this, then the possibilities of this happening to you again at this scenario and you doing this, it's pretty high. It is pretty high. So I mean, we gotta see. We gotta see this Saturday. Let's see if Sebastian Fundora. I mean, I already told you I'm expecting Fundora to beat Thurman, but can he prove me wrong? Can he blast Thurman out there? I guess we'll wait and see.